Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Peter and the Wolf, done by our 6 and 5-year-olds. Early one morning, while grandfather was still sleeping and snoring rather loudly, even louder, Peter tiptoed from their cottage out into the garden past the big fluffy duck, which blinked out. He opened the gate and strode out to the wide meadow, taking a deep breath in and looking around. A little bird was resting in the big tree near the garden wall.
Good morning, Peter. What a fine day.
Back in the garden, the duck noticed that Peter had not closed the gate all the way, so she roused herself a bit, stretched, and began waddling out of the garden into the meadow, sometimes backwards. How nice to start the day in my very own pond, she said. The little bird and the duck were good friends, and as good friends do, sometimes they like to tease each other, but only in fun. Their usual routine went as follows. The bird would fly down onto the grass next to the pond and ask the duck,
"What kind of bird are you if you can't fly?"
The duck would always quack back, "Well, what kind of bird are you if you can't swim?" The two would argue back and forth, the duck always splashing and swimming in the pond, and the little bird always hipping and popping around on the pond's edge.
You can't fly.
You can't swim.
You can't fly.
You can't
You
swim.
can't fly.
You can't swim.
You can't fly.
Today, as Peter watched the usual silliness of the bird and the duck arguing, he noticed his cat sneaking past the gate, slowly and quietly.
Oh, how I love Mr. Bat. And this one is so busy arguing. I just grab him and start my day with a lovely breakfast.
Just as it looked like the cat was about to pounce, Peter shouted,
Look out!
The bird instantly flew off to the big tree by the garden wall, while the duck quacked fairly angrily at the cat from the middle of the pond. Meanwhile, back in the cottage, Peter's grandfather was up and about, stretching and wondering just where Peter was. He had noticed that the garden gate was still open, so he came stomping through the garden and out into the meadow.
How many times did they tell you not to go in the meadow alone and always close the gate? What would you do if a wolf came out of the forest?
Peter
I'm
said.
afraid of a wolf.
Grandfather laughed and said,
Silly boy on his day.
and led Peter back to the garden. Locked the gate, and sat down in his comfy chair to read his favorite book about a boy and a wolf, and smoke his pipe. And then danger came. Out of the trees across the meadow, a big, hungry wolf crept and let out a growl. The cat was the first to spot it. In a flash, she ran to the tree by the garden wall and shot up it, climbing higher and higher until she knew she was safe. The duck, through all the commotion, did not at all see the wolf. She was only focused on her friend the bird. "Little bird, the cat's after you again," she said. "Look out!" She quacked as she splashed from the pond, waddling as fast as she could after the cat. The poor duck did not see the wolf until it was too late. When she did, she waddled as fast as she could, trying to fly, flapping her wings sadly. But the wolf was faster and faster, and made closer and closer until he pounced. And in one big gulp, he swallowed the wolf whole. The wolf licked his lips and trotted to the tree, letting out a burp. He paced back and forth, staring up at the cat. The bird, looking down, said to the cat,
Now he's after you.
The little cat hissed back at the bird.
And I'm after you.
The bird chirped back. The wolf looked up at the cat and said,
Come down and play with me.
he was saying, pretending to be friendly. Peter was watching all that was going on from behind the safety of the closed wall. And he said,
I'm not afraid of wolves.
he ran to get his strong rope and quickly climbed high on the garden wall near the tree, tied one end into a loop. He leaned in and said to the bird, after he finished tying the loop, he leaned in and said to the bird,
Don't fly down along the wolf's head, but don't get too close.
the little bird swooped down near the wolf, and as the wolf snapped his jaws, the bird would quickly dart away. The wolf snarled and said,
How dare you tease me!
angrily at the bird as it darted back and forth from this side to that. The bird would take its wings and tickle the wolf's nose. And as the wolf would think that it could get the bird darted off tweeting. Again and again, the little bird fooled the wolf. Meanwhile, upon the wall, Peter was quietly lowering the looped end of the rope down, waiting until the wolf was all tired from trying to catch the bird. When the wolf stood still for a moment, breathing heavily, Peter lowered the rope down and handed it to the cat, who hooked it on the wolf's tail. On the other end of the rope, Peter pulled with all his might. He caught the wolf! The wolf tugged and pulled and tugged with all his might, but he could not get free. Finally, the beast fell down, exhausted and defeated. He said to Peter,
Please let me go to my home in the deep dark woods, and I will never come here again.
Peter asked him.
I promise.
Just then, a wolf hunter came crashing through the forest, looking around nervously. The hunter was quite afraid of the wolf, and when the wolf was in sight, he began shooting wildly into the air.
Stop shooting! The wolf!
Shouted Peter. This made the hunter breathe a huge sigh of relief. When the hunter heard that the wolf had promised never to come back, he offered to help Peter lead him back home, so long as he was safely tied to that rope still. The captain jumped down from the tree, and Peter made his way over the wall and down into the meadow, for the gate was still locked. The bird then jumped down from the tree and chirped.
I know the way.
Grandfather was up and about hearing all the commotion, and all of them set out for the forest. First marched Peter with a big smile on his face. Behind him came the very nervous wolf hunter with the big tired wolf on the rope right behind him. They were followed by Grandfather.
Have you ever seen a boy as brave as Peter and so clever?
He called out, seemingly to no one in particular. Lastly came the cat, thinking to herself,
Tomorrow I'll catch that bird.
back and forth, the little bird chirping,
Peter, not cut the wolf. Peter, not cut the wolf. Peter, turn and cut the wolf.
and the duck. Well, the duck was making such a quacking and a thrashing about in the wolf's stomach that the wolf not only felt guilty, but a little sick, and finally coughed her out. Whereupon she flew back into the pond, quacking triumphantly.